Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you happen to be watching. Welcome to the Six Bugle Podcast. I'm your host, Rudy Ruiz, and today we have a very special guest and a longtime friend of mine, Dr. Will Anderson. Doctor, how are you, sir?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. So, are you used to the title now? Is that people, are you telling people you got to call me Doc now?
No, no. In fact, it sounds very weird. It sounds very weird, but at the same time, very relieved to be done with school and have it over with. And now I can focus on getting the word out there and, hopefully improve the lives of fire chiefs around the country.
Absolutely. I know that's what you're all about. That's what you've always been about. And I think that's what kind of brought us together. We were running in the same circles. We had the same circle of friends, and we met each other in various capacities at conferences. And I remember we were both reading grants at one time in Maryland, and we just kind of ran into each other. We already knew each other then, but we kind of ran into each other. And I'm thinking, yeah, this dude's got it going on. He's doing it for the right
Thank
reason.
you.
And I knew you were doing it because you wanted to make the fire service a better place for those that follow you. And it sounds like that's what you were focusing on your dissertation.
For sure. For sure. The job has given me so much. I'm a second generation firefighter. Started out as a 5 year old running through the fire stations in the local volunteer fire department where I grew up. And I was just immediately struck by the camaraderie, the sense of duty that these men at the time had.
Hmm.
And my career decision was pretty simple, pretty simple. I knew what I wanted to do. But I do remember when I started, there was a chief from a nearby community told me that this job owes you nothing, but if you devote yourself to it, it'll give you everything. And as a 19-year-old starting out, I didn't really understand what he meant. Now, fast forward 30 years, and truer words probably have never been spoken. It's given me so much, and I want to, now that I'm not on the job anymore, still contribute to the fire service, still make it better for those coming after who come up through the ranks and serve as fire chiefs to hopefully allow them an easier road than a lot of fire chiefs have currently.
Right. And you started this process while you were still working, correct? You hadn't retired yet, right?
No, no, I started the doctoral program in 2018, started the dissertation aspect of it in January of 23, and finished it in October of 24. So a little over a
Awesome.
year and a half.
Wow. Well, it's I'm sure that the road was very challenging, trying to juggle the job and the requirements of a doctoral degree and family. And your family is very active. I know that, and your son's doing well in sports. So, how's the family?
Family's great. Daughter graduates from college in May. Son graduates from high school in May, and they're both doing well. Daughter's looking to start her career, maybe take a year off from school, but then she wants to go to law school. And the son is looking to get into a business program at John Carroll University starting in the fall.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, they have someone that's very inspiring to look up to, and I know you're going to be a very supportive father, as well as your wife being a very supportive family. And I look forward to seeing their progression and seeing their contributions to society, which I know are going to be plentiful. Let's talk a little
Thank
bit
you.
about your dissertation, and when I read it, I was very intrigued by a lot of the information because as a fire chief myself, I did go through a lot of the same type of issues. So when I was going through it, I thought I had some questions that I'd like to ask. So if you don't mind, your research revealed that 93% of fire chiefs studied experienced burnout, yet they maintain high levels of professional efficacy. What insights did you gain about how these chiefs continue to perform their duties at such a high level despite experiencing burnout symptoms?
Listening to their stories, listening to their words offered such valuable and rich qualitative data. And I think really it comes down to, being a firefighter coming up through the ranks, anyone who spent any appreciable amount of time in the fire service knows that firefighters find a way to get a job done, involving teamwork, whether that is on an EMS incident, on a fire incident. So I believe it starts there. And that attitude of we got to get this job done regardless of what we're up against. So I believe it's an intrinsic motivation and work ethic that a fire chief has that they learned while they were a firefighter, and that helps them see a job or a project through completion. Um, Obviously, many are tired, yet they persevere and keep going. I think the participants that I had the pleasure and the honor of interviewing, they truly embody what it means to be a servant leader. They put the needs of others ahead of their own, specifically their department, their personnel, those types of things. I was not expecting 93% of the study participants, 40 out of 43, to experience burnout. However, after listening to their stories, both their struggles and their successes, these chiefs truly have that sense of duty, not just to their personnel, but also to their department, their community, and their families. And I think that they understand that the job is a higher calling, that also provides for their internal stakeholders. I'll call them their personnel, but also their external stakeholders, their family members, their close friends, those outside of their work circle. So really it comes down to, I think, lessons learned earlier in their career on we need to get this job done. And they carry that with them as they promote through the ranks to ultimately the fire chief's position. And yeah, they're tired, but at the same time, they have that sense of duty and sense of servant leadership that more or less sustains them to see a project or see something major through completion.
Right. And I know exactly what you mean. As a firefighter, I could see the issues that my chiefs were going through, and I really didn't think much of it because I wasn't dealing with them personally. But as a fire chief, I noticed them a lot more, obviously, and it kind of uh, it with that mindset, that drive that these individuals had that you interviewed, one of the most striking findings was that over 67% of primary participants reported being ostracized by their own department personnel, regardless of how well they were doing or the passion that they had for the job or the dedication that they demonstrated for their organization, their community, themselves, and their families. Could you share some of the most surprising examples of ostracism you discovered and what you believe drives this dynamic between chiefs and their teams?
Sure. So the examples ranged from very subtle to very overt and very obvious. The subtle examples were perhaps being uh, not invited to department functions like they perhaps used to be when they weren't in a fire chief's position. But the more concerning ones were vandalism to an individual's locker and personal belongings, false allegations to the news media, to the point where a camera crew and a reporter showed up unannounced at the fire station to question this chief on the allegations that were being made. And that chief didn't go into the specifics about what allegations or anything like that. Probably the most surprising and I guess most concerning would be a makeshift rat trap placed outside the door leading to the chief's office. And this particular participant in the study said that it was set up, found out it was set up on a Friday night after the chief had left for the weekend, came back on Monday morning, saw it, and he was okay with the differences that some people have with him. But what was more concerning to him was that it was left there for 3 days, Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and found on Monday morning. All three shifts had seen this. And what was more concerning for him was a, perhaps a leadership issue among the battalion chiefs who saw this and left it in place.
Right.
So And what drives this dynamic? I think in some organizations there's a power struggle between labor and management. The labor union likes to, uh, some, not all, some may believe that they call the shots and they set the direction of the organization. Some, may think it's more of a mutual labor management alliance. And some just feel emboldened, I believe, that they can do certain things and get away with it without repercussions, and almost a sense that certain individuals, whether or not this department is represented by a labor union, feel almost untouchable, or they'll know that it's going to get a rise out of individuals, and then they're viewed by those individuals as someone who stands up for worker rights and those types of things, rather than sitting down and discussing their concerns or grievances professionally. Some obviously resort to more primitive tactics and ways to show that they have a problem with management.
Yeah, I see. Have you noticed that, in your discussions, did you notice that things are changing now with different generations that are coming into the fire service? Because I noticed that when I was experiencing some things, there was some of the younger guys that aren't really used to that. You and I are used to that because we grew up in the service when that was the norm, right? It was just a rite of passage because they needed to make sure that we were strong enough. We're going to see some things that we've never seen before, and we have to make sure that you're going to be strong enough to handle those things. So I'm going to toughen you up here in house to make sure that you're going to be looking out for me when those things happen. That is obviously a weak definition of why we used to bully each other, but it was the norm, right? And I'm guilty of that as well. But that's not the norm anymore. Have you noticed anything like that? Have they said anything like that as the new generations come up that that's not acceptable?
So none of the participants specifically noted a generational difference,
Hmm.
but some chiefs did believe that there was a hierarchy, so to speak, within some organizations where the culture is that young firefighters, new firefighters should be seen and not heard. And in order to feel accepted, in order to feel like they belong, those individuals may not speak up when they see wrongdoing taking place, or in the research circles they're called, a lack of organizational citizenship behaviors, deviant work behaviors, those types of things, because they want to fit in, they want to feel accepted.
Sure.
And so it goes deeper than what this research offered. It comes down to a cultural issue, I think, in a lot of organizations, listening to some of these stories. And that's not something that's going to be fixed overnight. It takes a long time to change the culture of an organization. Uh, and when you
Right.
have this disconnect between labor and management, perhaps in some cases, anything the chief may say or come from the management side may be met with resistance and apprehension or skepticism, perhaps from the labor union.
Right. So, given that, what are the most urgent changes needed in how we prepare and support fire chiefs to prevent burnout and improve their effectiveness as leaders?
So I think it comes down to three areas. First is awareness, second is education, and the third is action. And by that, when we're talking about awareness, I think it's important for municipal leaders, whether they're mayors, city managers, township trustees, fire boards, commissions, whatever, they need to become familiar and aware of the challenges that their fire chiefs are up against. In addition, spouses and significant others of fire chiefs need to be made aware of what their loved one is up against and the stressors he or she is facing daily. Fire chiefs are expected to be everything to everyone every day. And we're humans. We're humans and we can't do it all. We can't carry everything.
Sure.
So, and I think another component of this would be the importance of executive and administrative assistants to recognize that an individual, a fire chief, is maybe behaviors have changed a little bit and they're struggling. So if all these outside parties are made aware, that's going to hopefully lead to an improvement in a fire chief and his or her ability to be resilient, to improve their emotional intelligence, and to practice mindfulness. These are all proven techniques through research that allows an individual to improve themselves to avoid burnout. The second aspect would be education. Fire chiefs themselves need to be educated on how they can cope better with the stressors. Uh, again, building resiliency, improving emotional intelligence, practicing mindfulness. Chiefs associations and peer support groups for fire chiefs can offer opportunities to their members to achieve the education necessary. And then the third is action. And at the end of the day, it's up to that fire chief to improve themselves and taking that next step to build their resiliency and improve their overall well-being. They have to want to be better. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, as the old saying goes.
Sure.
But at the same time, it can be a double-edged sword for some. Burnout consists of three dimensions. You have your exhaustion, you have your cynicism, and you have your inefficacy. When someone is tired and they're cynical, they may not be processing things clearly in their head. And so comprehending that resiliency can be improved, that emotional intelligence can be enhanced, and mindfulness can be practiced may be hard for them to comprehend. So, and that's where it takes the spouses or significant others, the executive or the administrative assistants, the managers, city managers, mayors, municipal leadership team to recognize, hey, chief, you okay? You seem to be different in the last couple months compared to last year. So it takes a village, as the old saying goes. It takes a village to raise a child. Well, it also takes a village to help sustain a fire chief, I think. But at the same time, here we have this persona that we have to be everything to everyone every day. And we have to have the answers for everything. People look to us for answers. We don't go to people looking for answers. We handle it ourselves. And that's a stigma, I think, that's slowly going away, but it's still there. So there's no easy answer, but at the end of the day, it comes down to that fire chief wanting to be better, wanting to cope with the stressors of the job better in a way that provides effective leadership for their organization.
Yeah, very good point. I think in my experience with some of the chiefs that I've known in the past, they felt like, okay, I'm here. I reached the pinnacle, and now I have to be like you said, everything for everybody, and they don't think that they have any more room to grow. When in actuality, there is a lot more room, a lot more things that you can do to improve yourself, and just to be better prepared for those types of situations, because you're not going in the burning buildings anymore. You're dealing with a lot of other people, not just the firefighters that you work for or with, but the community and the
Right.
elected officials, and dealing with all those things and still be able to come home and be a father, be a husband, or be a wife. So those things are always very important. And I also think that there are a lot of people that think, why do you need to go to those conferences? All they're going to do is just go out there and party and enjoy the scenery and go out to fancy dinners. And that's not the case at all. There's a lot of other benefits of going out there for those conferences so that you can learn and talk with other fire chiefs that are going through the same thing and just kind of reflecting. And I remember you and I met in Orlando, and we talked about the few things. And then your chief came up and he said, "What are you guys talking about?" I said, "Well, we're just solving the world's problems,
Yeah.
one question at a time." And but that's exactly what we do. And if at the very least, it encourages us to go back and recharge our batteries and say, okay, I'm ready to handle these situations again, and I got some new and different ideas. Or more importantly, I've got someone that I can reach out to and say, hey man, I really had a bad day and I can't share this with anybody, but can you be helpful here? And you know as well as I do, we've been in those positions before where we all we do is listen,
Yep.
and that's usually a huge help. So I hope that the folks that are listening, watching this, can benefit from that, benefit from your wisdom, benefit from the hard work that you put into this project. I know that it wasn't easy, but it was a labor of passion. And I know that's what kind of drove you through the whole process, and it's going to benefit a lot of people. So
I certainly hope so.
with that being said, how can people reach out to you to get more information?
So I don't have a website per se, but they can email me at incommandllc@gmail.com. I'm on LinkedIn under William Anderson. I'm on Facebook as Will Anderson. I can be reached at 216-374-5185. I'm happy to bring this research to any organizations or associations around the country to help spread the word and help educate, raise awareness, and provide the resources that I think fire chiefs need to help them lead better and make their organizations and communities better.
Yeah, we'll definitely have that information at the end of our podcast here. And one more thing, you're going to be at Six Bugle Conference this year, correct?
I am September 18th, I believe. Looking forward to presenting. And again, this will be a chance to get in front of the executive and administrative assistants to give them information that will hopefully help their fire chiefs.
Absolutely. And that's what we're all about. We're all about providing material information for the executive assistants to bring back to their organization, because a lot of times what they come back with is they say, I want to be more valuable to not only my chief but to the firefighters I work with and to the organization itself. And that's what we do. We provide them with material information so that they can come back and say, you know what, I can be a little bit more valuable to the organization, and here's what I can do. Here's what I've learned. And they've created their own group of individuals to kind of with each other, from each other, learn from each other, and they need an opportunity to get away too, right, and to be
Absolutely.
able to network with their like-minded professionals, and be able to recharge their batteries, because they are a vital part of our organization. So we do provide that. This year is going to be in Perrysburg, Ohio on September 17th to the 19th. Dr. Will Anderson will be there on the 18th talking about his research and also answering any questions. So if you want to get your administrative assistant out there, be sure to register on our website. It's www.thesixbugle.org. We'll have that information for you. And Doc, congratulations on your hard-earned project. And I know you're going to do some great things. You're continuing to do great things for the fire service, and I wish you nothing but the best. And we're going to connect again soon.
Sounds good. Chief, thank you for having me. This is my first ever podcast, so I apologize if I'm a little rough around the edges, but looking forward to doing more, hopefully, and helping out the Six Bugle any way I can.
Absolutely. And you know, we're here for you. Any way we can help you out, we'll definitely want to get the word out, because I know that this is some valuable stuff. This is solid gold. I appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us here on the Six Bugle Podcast. Again, my name is Rudy Ruiz with our special guest, Dr. Will Anderson, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.